Hey everyone, this is John Michael Swift. Welcome back to my looping series, and today I am going to talk about 4 button tricks that you can use. I'll tease a 5th real fancy button trick, but mostly I'm going to talk about 4 button tricks that let you get more out of your floorboard. A lot of times, just the way buttons are programmed, you have to do more than just what meets the eye with the way you use the buttons. You don't just kind of hit them when it's nice. So I'm going to talk about the different techniques and when you need to use them and all that stuff. Let's get into it. I'm using a song I wrote called Something Something, and here we go. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is called pre-pressing. It basically means pushing a button before you actually need it. And in a way, on the RC50, it's an example where you almost have to do it because you have to trigger which phrase you want to use and then which effect's going to happen to it, whether it's the stop or the undo redo or the record. So this one, you almost have to, let the looper know ahead of time. So if I want to go right from phrase 1 right into phrase 2 without a pause, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record on phrase 1, hit phrase 2 ahead of time, and then hit record right when I want to go. So here's an example. So there, I kind of just did a real quickie do, just threw an extra vocal on there. But normally in this song, I do a patch change. I do some vocal effects on it. So in order to do that, I actually have to press 2 buttons at once. So this is what I call the double button trick. There's 2 ways you can do this. One, you can put your foot over 2 buttons and hit them both at the same time. On the RC300, I tend to have to do this because a lot of times I want to stop one track and start the next. And then I tend to hit 2 buttons at the same time with 1 foot. In this case, I need to, kind of stacking a few things, I need to kind of pre-press a button that says I want to change my patch over here. And I also need to pre-press the next phrase I want to do, but then I need to change the patch and hit record at the same time. So you're going to see how that goes with this next little recording round. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and... So there you go. So I was able to get my patch change and switch my recording track at the same time, and that just keeps the ball rolling. So another trick I want to talk about is what I call the undo redo trick. Dub-Effects is a good example of an artist who does this with his bass line in almost every song. He'll tend to put 2 bass lines on 1 track, and rather than it being like, oh, I'm going to undo a mistake I made, he's going to say, no, I'm going to almost make it another track where I have sort of a softer layer on the bottom, but then a heavier layer on top, and you turn those on and off for different levels. So here we go. If I bring my other tracks back, if I'm just like, so they're going here, and record my bass line. And if I want to bring it back, I just undo. So now it's a little softer for a second there. So that can be nice. Now, the other trick I want to talk about is what I call the dancy button trick. So a lot of times what I have to do is, let's say especially on the 50 is another really good example of this. When you want to change more than one thing at a time, you sort of have to hit a quick sequence of things in a row. But if you practice coordinating your feet, it kind of looks sort of cool on stage, but it also lets you do a little bit more with your buttons in the time you have. Certain things disappearing, especially at the end of a phrase, like your loop stopping a little early at the end of a phrase is often not that noticeable. So oftentimes right before a downbeat, you can change a bunch of things at once. So what I'm going to do is, like, let's say I'm going to like the bridge of a song, which I often do. I'll often strip it back to like a very light layer, like on a dub effect style song. We're literally going to bring it back just to the vocals on phrase 2. So I'm going to have to knock out 2 phrases at once without using the all start button. And the way I'm going to do that is by being like stop, switch phrase, stop really quick. And yeah, you'll see how that goes. So let's bring everything back. Even our heavy bass line. And then here we go. 1, 2. See it hits you like physics. And then here's a bonus trick. Yeah. So there's your kind of extra little bonus trick, is just like slamming on everything at the end and, like, you know, bring it down, bring it back up with the all stop, all start button. Yeah, all good stuff. So the one other thing I'm going to talk about in a later video is going to be what I call super flash A/B looping. It's kind of a term I made up, but basically the idea is we will get into some more advanced button pushing later in the series, particularly when we want to practice using A/B rigs, which basically means we've got 2 instruments. One of them is going past the looper, one of them is going into it, and we're switching which one is which, and kind of flopping all those around and stacking them up in different ways. But it lets us play like a free line on an instrument while also looping another one and like switching those, so we can always have multiple things going on. So this is something we'll get into in another set of button exercises later in the series. But for now, see if you can apply some of these ideas to some things you're already doing, because there's stuff that show up a lot and really depend on the looper you have. See if you can adapt them to what you're using, and let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching, and hope to catch you later. Bye-bye.